I never imagined that a simple joke could change the course of my entire week, or maybe even my life. The morning sunlight streamed through the cafe's wide windows, painting everything in gold, but nothing in that moment felt warm. I sat across from her, my hands nervously tracing the rim of my coffee cup, and I blurted the words without thinking, "I'll pretend to be your boyfriend." The joke hung in the air like a fragile ornament, ready to shatter. Her eyes widened, and for a heartbeat, I thought she might laugh it off. But then she leaned back, crossing her arms with the kind of calm confidence that could slice through the thickest awkwardness. "We'll need practice," she said, her lips curling in a small, mischievous smile. "No one will buy it otherwise. If you believe in kindness and second chances, go ahead and hit like, comment, share, and subscribe to the channel Kindness Chronicles. I promise this story is worth it." Her name was Tamsin, and I had known her for months. Enough to know that she carried a quiet sorrow beneath her poised exterior. She always sat alone during lunch breaks, flipping through her worn sketchbook, her hair pulled into a messy bun that never quite captured the brilliance of her emerald eyes. I had admired her from a distance, but never had the courage to step inside the fortress she carefully built around herself. But that morning, something shifted. There was a desperation in her request, or maybe it was a plea, camouflaged as humor. "Practice," she said again, as if that single word held the power to mend whatever unspoken wound lingered in her life. And, against my better judgment, I nodded. The first few days were awkward. Trying to be someone you're not, even for the sake of helping another person, is harder than any job or exam I've ever faced. We met in public spaces, wandering through parks, laughing in cafes, and attempting casual touches that felt alien and rehearsed. At first it was uncomfortable, like dancing in shoes too. Sizes too small, but slowly the pretense began to reveal a truth I hadn't expected. Tamsin had a way of making even ordinary moments feel profound. When she laughed at a street musician playing the violin, she didn't just laugh, she radiated joy that could light up the darkest street corner. I found myself drawn into her orbit, desperate to mirror even a fraction of that warmth. And the more we practiced, the more I realized something terrifying. I was no longer pretending. She had asked me to help her appear normal to the world, but the irony was cruel. In trying to perform love, I had begun to feel it. And she carried her pain with the kind of dignity that made you ache for her without knowing why. Her mother had passed away years ago, leaving her with a father who couldn't bridge the gap between grief and connection, and a little brother who oscillated between mischievous antics and silent pleading for attention. She didn't talk about any of this, not to me, not to anyone. Yet I sensed it in the way she lingered a moment too long at a photograph, in the quiet sighs as she traced her mother's name in the corner of her sketchbook. Time passed, and our performances grew more convincing. Colleagues and friends started to notice the chemistry, and for the first time in years Tamsin's presence seemed to light up rooms instead of dimming them with solitude. But the real test came when she invited me to her family's home for dinner, a high-stakes event she had dreaded for years. The thought of stepping into that space, pretending to be someone I wasn't, nearly made me back out. But she looked at me with an unspoken plea, the kind that dared you to be brave, and I knew I couldn't fail her. Her father greeted me with cautious skepticism, her little brother eyed me like I was a character from a storybook, and her mother's photograph smiled benignly from the mantel. I fumbled through conversations, laughed at the wrong times, and stumbled over words that weren't mine. But Tamsin stood beside me, holding my hand in a gentle squeeze that said more than words ever could. That night, as we walked home under a sky streaked with fading sunlight, she leaned her head on my shoulder and whispered, "I think we passed." It wasn't just a rehearsal anymore. We weren't pretending. The laughter, the shared silences, the moments of vulnerability, they were all real. And with that realization came a terrifying, exhilarating truth. I loved her. The first time I said it aloud, it was in the middle of a rain-soaked street, neon lights reflecting off puddles and making the world look like a painting. I took her hands in mine and said, "Tamsin, And she interrupted me with a laugh, shaking her head. "No scripts, no rehearsals, just you." That night, beneath the falling rain and the hum of the city, we stopped pretending. We didn't need to, because sometimes the heart knows the truth long before the mind catches up. Yet, the journey wasn't without struggle. I had to learn patience, to navigate the lingering shadows of her grief, to respect the spaces she needed for herself. She had to learn to trust, to let someone else in without fear of judgment. And in the delicate give and take of our burgeoning relationship, we found something rare, a love born not of circumstance, but of courage and gentle persistence. Months later, as we sat atop a hill overlooking the city at dusk, wrapped in blankets against the chill, she rested her head on my shoulder and murmured, "I never imagined love could feel like this." I kissed her hair, feeling the pulse of her heartbeat against mine, and replied, "I think it was never about imagining. It was about daring to practice it, one small step at a time." If this story touched your heart even a little, please engage with the video, like, comment, share, and subscribe to the channel. It matters more than you know, and your support helps stories like this reach others who need them. Before we close, I want to make a special request. Take a moment today to reach out to someone you care about, even in the smallest way. Sometimes a single act of kindness, a single word, can open doors that fear and pain had long closed. And so our story, born of a joke, nurtured through laughter, and tested by life's quiet hardships, reminds me every day that the heart often knows the truth before we do. Pretending to be something we are not can lead to discovering the courage to become exactly who we were meant to be, and sometimes it can lead to a love that heals, inspires, and transforms. Because in the end, love isn't about buying illusions. It's about daring to practice the courage, compassion, and vulnerability that make us human. And with Tamsin by my side, every day felt like the beginning of a lifetime of real, imperfect, beautiful moments.